Hello everybody, welcome to this Protection Insight podcast. Joining me today is Andy King from Zurich. How are you today, Andy?
I'm good, Vincent. I hope you're well.
Good. And in this podcast today, what we're going to do is take a look at how to write a protection policy into a Zurich discretionary trust. Now, to do this, Andy, we're going to actually focus on the trust deed, which is the paper deed. That's what you print off your computer. But you actually do have an online system, which is really great for new business. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about that, Andy?
Yeah, so for all new business, we'd really point you in the direction of the online system itself, because that will be completely signature free. You will always get the right trust for what you need as well. But today we're obviously going to be looking at policies that are already up and running and how to write it into a paper trust after sale.
So the process that you're about to see today on paper, it is replicated on the online system. So just think of that as any new business, use the online tool. But if you've got policies with Zurich which are already enforced, then you'll need to pay attention to this podcast and this process. The difference, I guess, Andy, is that there are no signatures on the online version.
That's right, yeah. The online version is really quick and easy to do. It takes probably about 60 seconds. The paper version, as you said, it mirrors it entirely. The only difference is the signatures.
Okay. Well, I'm on the advisor website, the intermediary website for Zurich. And can you guide me through, Andy, how to find the trust form, the correct trust form for this case study that we're going to look at today?
Okay, the easiest way to do this is if you go right up to the top, you've got protection, document library, advice matters, etc. across the top in the black. If you click on the document library,
Okay,
and then if you scroll down, there are frequently used documents at the top, but let's just go right the way down to the boxes at the bottom, and then you'll see trusts on the right hand side in a blue box. If you click on that.
Okay, and I can see here, Andy, you've actually got different trust deeds. We're going to look at a single life policy, so I guess that's the discretionary trust deed. You've also got relevant life, which isn't something we're going to look at today. Survivorship trust deed, that's for joint life first death policies, and then business protection. Again, we're not going to look at that today. So if I click on the discretionary trust deed there and open up the PDF, there we go. We can see the Zurich badge at the top. Do you want to just guide me through any key points to look out for on this trust form, Andy?
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously it looks daunting at first. You'll see this has got 12 pages, but most of it is the provisions of the trust, so nothing that you actually need to complete yourself. Key parts, I would say, would be on the first page with writing on when the trust should and shouldn't be used. So this is really for either single life policies or for joint life second death policies only. It's not for the joint life first death, as you mentioned. We'd be looking at that with the discretionary survivorship trust.
I think it's interesting when you look at this series of podcasts that we've been running with all the different providers. I think Zurich is the only provider to make that really, really clear in terms of when you're about to see two settler boxes, but actually that's because joint life second death. If we're talking about single life policies, of course, this is the correct trust form to use. Andy?
Yep, that's absolutely right, Vincent. So if you would scroll down to page 7, that's actually the first part where you'll need to do any work on it.
Okay, so we can scroll through these first 6 pages, lots of rules and words around how the trust operates and functions. But as you say, Andy, on page number 7, this is really where we start completing the trust. So discretionary, as we know, means choice. That's discretion on behalf of the trustees. This is a trust deed, so this is the paper trust that we'll use for business, which is already enforced. So can you guide me through how I get started with this page, Andy?
Yeah, so the key point at the top, you see policy number there. We must have the PR number. So often when you apply for a policy with Zurich, you'll have a PAP number. Now that's the umbrella policy over it. Because you can put each different part of a menu policy into trust, you need to put the PR number in there. That's really, really important. Okay. And then you'll see you've got the person who's declaring the trust. And as you mentioned, there is an and in there for the joint life second death cases, but you just need to put the person in there who's actually declaring the trust at the outset.
Okay, so I'll put the policy number in there, as you say, Andy. Also capture the name of my settler. That's the life assured. That's the client, John Smith. And I can see this box underneath here that says Box A, Settler's Benefits. It's nice and clear, but just talk us through that, Andy.
So these are benefits that you may want to give away. very, very rare that we will see somebody giving away their critical illness cover to the beneficiaries. So we would assume that if all of these are not ticked, that the settler is retaining those. So the children's critical illness cover, they will get paid. Their critical illness cover, they would get paid. And the terminal illness and total permanent disability, they would get paid. Of course, it may be the case that they want to give away the terminal illness benefit if it was going to create an IHT liability. But generally, for a mortgage advisor, you could take on your terminal illness benefit yourself as long as you are then going to pay off the mortgage with that.
So that would simply mean that the money is paid back to the settler in the event of a terminal illness claim. Like you say, you could pay off the mortgage. So makes a lot of sense there, Andy. Obviously, it goes without saying too that we're talking there about critical illness. This case study today is life cover. You'll see with some providers, split trusts are available for life or early critical illness policies. As you can see there, Zurich actually cater for life or early critical illness within this trust. So that's good to know. And if we move down to potential beneficiaries, Andy,
Yeah.
just talk us through this.
Okay, so this is anybody that can benefit from this trust. As you mentioned earlier, it's a discretionary trust, so it's down to the trustees to decide who they're going to pay the money to. And it could be any one of these categories in there from A to E. So it could be a charity, it could be the spouse, children or grandchildren. Anybody there that's in that box B could benefit from the policy. And then you'll notice underneath box C is the default beneficiary. So this is really important for the customer to ensure that this is filled out so that trustees know who to pay.
And it does say there for default beneficiaries. It's something that we've talked about on several of these podcasts, but it's nice and clear here. It says, do not leave this blank. So you've got to do something here. And there is some instructions back on page number 3. It also says if there's more than one beneficiary, also state their share, making sure the total comes to 100%. This obviously shouldn't include the settlers. Now, in my case study, Andy, we've actually got an unmarried couple. So we've got John and his partner, Janet, and he actually wants the money to go to Janet, 100% of it. So I guess we'd put Janet's name as a default beneficiary.
That's right. So in box B, the one above, you'll see the very bottom category is the person named in box C. So we would put Janet's name in there and 100% share there. Now, of course, we do know that life changes, so it could be that we might need to change Janet in the future. Let's say that John and Janet get married and they have children and they want the kids to go in here instead. So all you would need to do in that situation is give us a call, tell us which beneficiaries you'd like to retire, what the percentage is of the new beneficiaries, and then we'll draw up a deed and send out to you for signing.
It's really interesting because I think that is quite unique as well on the marketplace. So just to be clear there, if we do need to change a default beneficiary on a Zurich discretionary trust, we actually can do, can't we, Andy?
Yep. Just give us a phone call and we'll take care of it for you.
Fantastic. Okay, well, that's the first page where we complete some information. The next page is the only other page that we complete more information. So you can see at the top there, this is where it looks like we capture some signatures. So first of all, we've got the signature by the settler. So that must be John, the client, the life assured.
That's correct.
And the signature of witness. So we need a witness signature, name and address of the witness as well. But of course, if you're the advisor, you're independent from this process, so you actually can act as witness. So we get the signature of the settler, we'll get that witnessed, and then we'll move down to additional trustees. Now, just talk us through what we're seeing here, Andy, in terms of trustees, additional trustees.
Okay, so you've got space for 4 here. Some people want more, but it's quite rare, but you can put more than 4 on there. You just need to put their details on another sheet of paper. And all you need to do here is literally put the details of who the trustees are going to be. You'll see that there's a signature box for them, but there isn't a box for a witness, so we don't need those signatures witnessed. And we would always recommend at least 2 additional trustees, because then if there's a dispute, that both trustees do need to agree where the proceeds are going to be paid.
But it's the minimum number of trustees 1, Andy.
You could, yeah. Now, I can give you a little case study here. Let's say that John and Janet, obviously they're not married in this situation, but John didn't know who to put as a trustee, so he decided to put his mum down as a trustee, only his mum. However, mum didn't get on with Janet. So in the event of John's death, because this is a discretionary trust, she could decide to pay anybody in box B, our potential beneficiaries, not just Janet. So don't forget, one of those was any charity. So instead of giving the money to Janet, she could literally just give all of the funds away to a charity. So that's why we'd say, okay, have two trustees on here in addition to obviously the settler, because then they would need to agree on where the proceeds are going to go, and they will ensure then that the money can go to Janet. Of course, Janet could, in theory, challenge this legally because her name is down there, but then that would be down to a matter for the courts to decide, and sort of defeats the object of having the policy into trust in the first instance.
Yeah, absolutely. So you recommend to, in fact, with my case study, Andy, I've actually got three. I've got three additional trustees. One of them is Janet, but I've also got two independent additional trustees beyond that. So if we get those details filled in there, we'll get the signatures of each of those trustees. We can see that we need the dates of birth for those trustees, and I've done all of that. What do I need to do next?
All you need to do then is pop it in the post to us. And if you go onto the protection website where you started, there's a contact us page. And on there, you have the address for protections operations, and you just pop it in the post to us. We'll then record the trust, check, obviously, make sure that it's all been completed correctly. And then we'll send the original trust form back out, and we'll take a copy for our files.
Yeah. So just to be clear there, if this is a protection policy which is already in force, we do need to send the original trust form into Zurich, and they will return it back to you. That's great. So it was pretty straightforward to do that, Andy. Thank you so much for spending a bit of time running through that with me. Hope, obviously, advisors watching the podcast found that useful. So until next time, it's bye for now.